Hello and welcome back. Have you ever stopped to consider what you truly value? Or maybe where you place your sense of strength and security? Well, today, June 21, 2025, we're doing a deep dive into some fascinating ancient wisdom and also a contemporary reflection that, well, it just might flip your perspective a bit. Our sources for this deep dive are from a collection of daily spiritual readings. We've got powerful passages from Tucker Corinthians, the comforting words of Psalm 34, and some really direct teaching from the Gospel of Matthew. And we're also pulling in some surprising insights from a modern reflection called Heavenly Treasure. So our mission today is really to unpack what these texts reveal about where our true value lies, what genuine strength actually looks like, and maybe most importantly, how our inner vision, our very way of seeing the world shapes everything. It's about discovering some enduring wisdom that feels just as relevant now as, well, thousands of years ago.
Exactly. And I think it's that timelessness that makes this so compelling, right? These aren't just like dusty old scrolls. They really offer a unique lens to view, well, universal human experiences. They challenge a lot of our common assumptions about success or strength or even happiness, really. And they kind of nudge us towards some critical self-reflection on our own priorities.
Absolutely. So, okay, let's jump right into our first segment. This is one I find incredible countercultural, maybe even revolutionary. We're starting with 2 Corinthians chapter 11, specifically verses 18 and then 21 through 30. The speaker, Paul, he opens with this almost, well, it sounds almost sarcastic, saying, "Since many boast according to the flesh, I too will boast." And by flesh, he means the worldly stuff, status, lineage, achievements. He even lists his own credentials. Things like, are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they children of Israel? So am I. Are they descendants of Abraham? So am I. All the sort of conventional ways people established credibility back then. But then he just completely flips the script on what he really boasts about. He pivots immediately to this really surprising admission. To my shame, I say that we were too weak. So, okay, conventional wisdom says, show your strength, always. But Paul, incredibly, seems to be saying, no, my weakness is my strength. Why? Why is he intentionally flipping the script like that? What's the surprising power he's trying to reveal here?
It's a complete reversal, isn't it? A total reversal of conventional wisdom. So instead of listing achievements, he then details this truly staggering list of his sufferings and hardships. He talks about far greater labors, far more imprisonments, far worse beatings, and numerous brushes with death. I mean, can you even imagine? He goes on, 5 times at the hands of the Jews I received 40 lashes minus 1.
Wow. That's brutal.
Just brutal. And then 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I passed a night and a day on the deep.
That's just an astonishing amount of physical and mental endurance required just to survive all that.
It really is. And he keeps going, detailing these relentless dangers. On frequent journeys and dangers from rivers, dangers from robbers, dangers from my own race, dangers from Gentiles, dangers in the city, dangers in the wilderness, dangers at sea, dangers among false brothers. It's everywhere.
It sounds relentless.
And the sheer physical toll on top of that. In toil and hardship, through many sleepless nights, through hunger and thirst, through frequent fastings, through cold and exposure. He's just laying out every single moment of vulnerability, it seems.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In a world that constantly tells us to fake it till you make it, hide our struggles. What does Paul's really radical embrace of weakness actually unlock for us? What's the point?
Well, that's the core insight right there. The text gives us the answer directly in the conclusion. If I must boast, I will boast of the things that show my weakness. This isn't just some clever turn of phrase. It completely reorients our idea of what strength even is. It's about finding true power in that vulnerability, in relying on something beyond just yourself. And he also mentions the daily pressure upon me of my anxiety for all the churches and his deep solidarity with others. He asks, who is weak and I am not weak? Who is led to sin and I am not indignant?
So this really challenges us to think, if our greatest strength might actually be found in admitting our weaknesses and connecting with others in their weaknesses, well, what does that mean for our own understanding of resilience?
That's a really profound question, definitely worth sitting with for a moment because it just challenges so many of our everyday assumptions. And it leads us actually quite beautifully to our next source, which is Psalm 34, verses 2, 3, 4 to 5, and 6 to 7. If Paul details the depths of personal suffering, this psalm offers a really comforting, almost contrasting message of divine rescue. The refrain itself is incredibly hopeful. From all their distress, God rescues the just. And you hear lines like, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall be ever in my mouth. Let my soul glory in the Lord. The lowly will hear me and be glad. And that very direct affirmation, I sought the Lord and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. It's just such a powerful testament to finding solace, finding intervention, even right in the middle of turmoil.
Yeah, it really acts as a vital counterpoint to Paul's, well, harrowing account. It offers this powerful sense of hope and divine protection, right? A promise of rescue, even amidst the kind of intense, relentless struggles Paul described. It highlights seeking the divine as the source of radiant joy, and how when the poor one called out, the Lord heard, and from all his distress he saved him. It sort of connects Paul's willingness to admit weakness to this ultimate source of strength and comfort, but it puts it in perspective.
Which brings us neatly to our third segment, taking us into the gospel reading from Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 23. Now here, Jesus gives a very direct, very clear command about storing up treasures. It feels less about physical suffering, maybe, and more about our spiritual perspective and what we prioritize. He draws this really sharp contrast. He says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and decay destroy and thieves break in and steal." Pretty clear. But store up treasures in heaven where neither moth nor decay destroys, nor thieves break in and steal. It's presented as a very clear choice, isn't it?
Stark, yeah. Stark in its simplicity. And the core principle he gives for making this choice is incredibly powerful and really universal. For where your treasure is, there also will your heart be. And this is where it gets really interesting, because that heavenly treasure reflection we looked at, it reinforces this perfectly. It states flat out that what we treasure most reveals the true direction of our lives. So our priorities, what we value, they fundamentally dictate our path, our entire inner world even.
Right. And then the text shifts to this fascinating metaphor of the eye. Jesus says the lamp of the body is the eye. If your eye is sound, your whole body will be filled with light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be in darkness. It almost sounds like a riddle at first, but it seems to tie directly into this whole discussion about where we place our value.
It absolutely does. When we kind of unpack this eye metaphor, it's really about our internal perspective, isn't it? Our discernment.
Yeah.
What we choose to focus on. And it's interesting, even that short Alleluia verse before the gospel, from Matthew 5.3, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." It echoes this idea, you know?
Oh.
That idea of not being attached to earthly treasures, being poor in spirit, can really mean having that inner eye focused on what truly matters, not on accumulating stuff.
Yeah.
And the heavenly treasure reflection gives direct guidance here. It says, our eyes, when focused on the light of Christ, bring clarity and purpose to everything we do.
Clarity and purpose.
Exactly. And it also includes that really stark warning from Jesus. And if the light in you is darkness, how great will the darkness be? So it powerfully reinforces this idea of focusing our gaze on, well, the eternal, not the temporary, as the reflection puts it, so that our lives may be filled with God's light. It really comes down to what we choose to see, what we choose to prioritize, and how that inner vision, well, it either illuminates or obscures our entire existence.
Wow. What an incredible journey through these sources today, really. We started with that surprising strength found in just acknowledging weakness, the very things Paul said he would boast about, ironically. Then we moved through the comforting promise of divine rescue from distress, finding hope even when things seem incredibly tough. And finally, we landed on this really profound teaching about where our true treasures lie and how our inner vision, our eye of understanding, as you put it, truly shapes our reality.
Indeed. These sources, when you look them together like this, they really invite us to constantly reevaluate, don't they? Our priorities, our perspectives. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's fundamentally about discerning what truly illuminates our path. And maybe what just distracts us or darkens it. It's about understanding that what we value, what we treasure, dictates our clarity and our purpose in life.
So the question for you listening today maybe comes directly from that Heavenly Treasure Reflections conclusion. It asks beautifully, I think, what earthly attachment can you surrender today to make more room for God's light in your heart? Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into wisdom from both the past and the present. We really hope it sparks your own continued exploration of these, well, truly timeless ideas.